Check, check, quick sound check. Can everybody hear us loud and clear? What's going on, Coach Paul?
I hear you loud and clear, Coach Jay. And welcome back from President's Day weekend. Hope everybody had a good day off. How about you, Coach?
Doing good, man. Doing pretty good. Enjoyed an extra day off on the markets, even though I did trade yesterday. I did trade. There was a little scalp that I saw opportunities. Scalped a couple micro S&P, but it was good to have some time off of the markets and good to get back. Today was it's Tuesday, feels like a Monday, but we got a shortened week. How was your start to your week, Coach Paul?
I didn't trade yesterday and lost money this morning. Got whipsawed, and that happens. I limited it, but I didn't enjoy the whipsaw. Does anybody really enjoy the whipsaw? I don't.
I don't know, man.
Uh,
It makes it rough.
yes, it does. How was your day?
Got short the S&P. Short the S&P for about 12 points. Was short from 68.60 and took it for about 12 points. We were talking about that trade during fast markets when MP came on, talking about that trade with Hogue. I am still waiting for that live account to be set up with the risk team. So trading in a personal account for now, not doing too much over there. Seeing a couple opportunities, taking them here and there. Well, welcome to At the Buzzer, everyone. Our market recap. If this is your first time here, the goal of this segment is to review what happened in the markets for the day. We may talk about some markets that you have not traded before, but we believe our goal as traders is to identify opportunity. We want to see how we can take advantage of those opportunities while managing our risk. If this is our first time meeting, I'm Coach Jay. Been a Topstep performance coach since June of 2023, and that is Coach Paul. Coach Paul, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Coach Paul. I've been with Topstep since April of 2023. I've been involved in the futures trading industry for 4 decades. I'm here to share my experience, maybe some knowledge, and hopefully help you become a better trader.
Awesome stuff. Thank you for that, Coach Paul. You're all our chat, our audience. Let us know how your day was today. Were you up on the day, down on the day? Anything that you learned from today? Did you trade yesterday during the holiday? Did you take the time off and enjoy yourself off the charts? And we'll get into the markets. As far as economic numbers go, we may not be getting some of the economic data that we expect. We are in a little bit of another government shutdown here. So some of the data that we're supposed to get later in the week, we may not be getting. We did have a Canadian CPI number come out this morning, 2.3%. Forecast was 2.4, so a little lower than expected. Uh, and we may be getting some peace talks between the U.S. and Iran. Coach Paul, anything you want to talk about in the news?
Just the continuing fluctuating Iran talks. I think that's contributing to this whipsaw. Um, but tomorrow, it'll be an interesting number. It's the ADP, and it comes out at 7:15. That's the one I'm looking at. There's a lot of PPI and CPI overseas overnight, but that ADP number is becoming more and more important as people question or delays in data from the government. So I think it comes tomorrow at 7:15. If it was, I'm really interested in watching that number tomorrow.
ADP number, where is it?
It's,
Oh, what just happened? Just
they took it away as soon as I
yeah, I'm not
mentioned it.
I'm not seeing it there. Actually, yeah,
There it
there it
is.
is. There it
U.S.
is.
ADP weekly.
Yeah, tomorrow. We should be getting that
And
number tomorrow.
so other than that, we'll still be. I did find it interesting that one of the companies that released their earnings early to calm speculation. Um, there were two companies. And they released their earnings, McAfee and Rocket Software. That was it.
Okay.
That's out of the ordinary.
Releasing
Um,
your earnings early, yeah.
just it red flagged me a little bit in the fact that that's out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
Um, so you know, there's a talk in the background that software industry is dead as we know it because of AI.
Yeah.
Um, but the fact that they released it early, ahead of schedule, and it said in a bid to convince lenders of their resilience to disruption from AI.
Hmm.
That you just wouldn't agree to that if you weren't concerned. So
Right.
I think that is that's I think and that's been a head on and off headline for the year. And the fact that I don't know after today that the Magnificent Seven were all negative so far in 2026. We're sitting on a 200 moving average. I just think that there's a lot of nervousness behind the headlines.
Yeah.
I've been around a long time. I don't think I've seen that happen where um,
Earnings report at least released earlier.
voluntarily to release to relieve some concern. So that to me was a big headline.
Have it. Interesting stuff there. Thank you for that, Coach Paul. Let's take a look at the quote board. We have 36 different markets we can trade with Topstep accounts today to the downside. We have gold down 2.87%, silver down 5.58%, and natural gas, our biggest percentage mover to the downside, down 6.01%. To the upside, we have soybean oil up 0.47%, live cattle up 0.83%, and lean hogs, our biggest percentage mover to the upside, up 1.04%. To talk about our big four, we had crude oil down 1.02%, the S&P the S&P up a quarter of a percent, gold down 2.9%, and the Nasdaq down 0.02%. Uh, just keep in mind that yesterday was a non-settlement day. The markets did trade, but because it was a half day, these settlement prices are from and the percent changes that we're seeing are from Friday's settlement. Right? There was no settlement yesterday. Take a look at the Nasdaq. We have it up here on the daily, and that 200 moving average was the story today for me in the Nasdaq. We've talked about this 200 daily moving average. It was trending up. We tested it last week Friday, I believe that was. Yeah, last week
Mhm.
Friday we had about 1,000 point, almost 1,000 point bounce off of that 200 moving average. This is the second test of it in 7 trading days and 11 calendar days. We can see if we zoom out and look at that 200 moving average. It's not a level that we test often. Before last Friday, the last test we had of it was May 23rd of 2025. So it's been a while, but now we're getting a couple of tests of that longer term moving average in a short period of time. Does that mean weakness? Potentially. We're seeing the 20 moving average cross below the 50, and that 200 holding as a support. 24,492 is that price. But what do you see? What do you see when you have a test of this 200 moving average a couple of times, Coach Paul?
Close below it
Yeah.
with volume. Right now, we had decent volume on this average volume on the buying, and if you were trading around down, that we had that big reversal up to 200. So there is some longer term buying at value, but we basically closed unchanged. What was the percentage? It was less than half a percent, right?
0.05% right now. 0.05.
Okay, um,
Unchanged.
very neutral. But we held it, but we're still behind the 200 on a half hour. So the I think this market really has to get going. Some buyers have to come in with large buying to turn us around.
Yeah.
Um, so then we saw a little bit of it this morning, but notice there was this is interesting. On the first half an hour, we had large selling with light buying to bring us, so that's not healthy.
Yeah.
So why? Because the largest volume was selling. It's like that selling stopped and we popped, but we didn't get follow through. And 200 on the half hour is sitting right above it. So it's going to continue to tick slowly down. Um, I think tomorrow is a big day. It needs, if for bulls, this needs to go. It needs to ignite. And I think tomorrow's opening is going to be going to tell a lot.
For sure. For sure. We'll take a look at last night's open. Here we go here. There was a decent sell-off last night. There was a decent sell-off starting after the Shanghai session open. We initially looked at a spike to the upside, couldn't hold, and we just turned around. A lot of two-sided trade today. I'm curious how traders did today. Again, there was opportunity on both sides of this market. You could have been short, you could have been long for a couple hundred points at a time. Last night, really decent sell-off, of course, on lower volume. By the time we opened up for the New York session, we were still trading back in those prices. Let's take a look at the New York session open now. Uh, Initially, we had a spike up, uh, opened up pretty much right near full session VWAP. Initial spike to the upside in the Nasdaq, but this was a back and forth day for sure. By the time we got any urgency from VWAP leaving that range, we were already on the way back down. We've seen that over the past couple of days. Last Friday was an insane open, and we've seen some pretty wild opens in the equities over the last couple of days. This is a 200-point move to the upside, and then a 350-point move to the downside, all within the first half an hour of the market being open.
And that's why that's weakness.
Yeah.
That we haven't really shook. I did notice. Remember, yesterday again was a holiday, and then so holidays like this. We talked about settlement.
Hmm.
Settlement. We're still in Friday's settlement until the close. So there was a lot of what I'll call open space between today. And that can lead to whipsaw markets. So now, we trade yesterday's trade was actually pretty directional until the open, but today's trade after a 3-day holiday, like I said, I don't watch the, the deck or the dom.
Yeah.
How did was it? How was the volume in orders
So
there?
I wasn't necessarily watching the Nasdaq. I was more so watching the S&P, and we could switch over to the S&P. In that first half an hour, it was extremely thin, right? And JD just said it in the chat. Had to move 400 points in the Nasdaq to find average volume. Then the S&P in the first half an hour, and I mentioned it to Jack during fast markets. That first half an hour, there was not 100 lot on the bid or the offer within a 20-point range on either side, right? So there wasn't a 100 lot to the upside or the downside in that first half an hour in the S&P. That's extremely thin, and why the market is going to be able to move the way it did, right? This is 60 points high to low range in that first half an hour. There was nothing there.
All right, so that was my suspicion. If anybody wants to do the study, after 3-day holidays, also it's Lunar New Year
Correct.
in China.
Happy New Year.
Um, Happy New Year. What is it? The year of the horse?
You're the horse.
I was born in the year of the rat, so I have that going for me.
Okay.
How about you? Do you know?
That's a good question.
Oh,
I gotta look it up. I'll look it up
oh,
while
you
we're here.
Googled that. um, but following through on that selling, I just feel it was a short covering rally. People get caught in a hole. It would in a thin market. It's a classic whipsaw day. Um, so and even on we still finished under the 200 on the half an hour. Um, Again tonight. Then I guess Chinese New Year goes for a few days. So tonight, I imagine will be light volume again.
I was born in the year of the snake.
Okay, it's a
I don't know.
snake better
Yeah.
than a rat.
I don't. I don't know. I don't know. I have to look it up. Now I'm curious.
Yes.
Curious. I got to read up on that.
Okay.
Uh, what year were you all born? far as the 12-year cycle of animals in the Chinese zodiac. Let us know in the chat. Let
You
us know.
should know that. Fire dragon.
Yeah. What happens when you run out of animals to name your years? It's a 12-year cycle, so they just start over.
Yep.
You just cycle the same 12. I was born in the month of the bull. Okay. There you go.
Month of. All right.
We can see, like you said, Coach Paul, all these equity markets below that 200 moving average. Here's the Russell. They're all the equities kind of did the same thing today in different ways, but everything's still below those 200 moving averages on the 30 minutes. Should be an interesting week. And are we going to get some of the economic data that we were expecting? We got NVIDIA earnings, but that's not until next week. That will, takes center stage. But interesting time in these markets for sure. Anything else you want to talk about in the equities?
Let's look at the Russell.
Here's the Russell on the daily.
And it's still going. This you talk about. I mean, it's not directional whatsoever. They was the biggest whipsaw. So the Russell and the Dow have been acting a little different, and it continued today. But they're both starting to flatten out. Why I bring that up is it's overall we're not getting good buying. Yeah, it's look, we're whipsawing on light volume. All right. So there's no commitment. Um, and if we go to the half hour, look at that first half an hour.
New York session open, yeah. This is a
Yeah,
huge range.
a huge range. So the sellers are having trouble finding liquidity on the buy side.
Yeah.
As soon as they stopped, we went right back up to make new highs on price. That is a very vicious day.
Mm-hmm.
So that it's been the better of the trades directionally in the day
Agreed.
trade. Today it was not the case. I didn't trade it, but it was a tough. Yeah, there you go. It was a tough trade, but overall in that half hour, it was selling. It was the biggest volume. Once again, they had the reach to find buyers. But once they stopped, did we get a J trade?
We didn't
No,
really. No, we didn't. Not on the
no.
3 minute at least, or the 30. No, we didn't. We haven't really seen those recently. I think it's because these markets have been so range bound, where they're just getting to a point where they're finding a demand or resistance area and kind of slowly turning around. This morning wasn't too slow in the equities, but no, we haven't really been seeing J trades in the equities as much.
Edward Wazak has a good point here. FOMC minutes tomorrow. Everybody thinks they don't move markets till they do. Thanks for pointing that out. They could be, don't ignore it. I didn't see that, but when they come out, what at 1 o'clock?
Yeah, 1 o'clock Central, 2 p.m. Eastern time.
So thanks, Edward.
Thank you for that, Edward. On the daily, what I want to look at real quick with the equities, you see the Russell. The range today was the 20 and 50 moving averages. 20 still above the 50, still above the 200. The Dow, 20 above the 50, above the 200, holding above that 20. The NASDAQ, much weaker, 20 below the 50, still both above the 200, but we have price testing that 200, much weaker in the NASDAQ. And in the S&P, today could have been the day that the 20 be crossed below the 50, but they're trading at exactly the same price. So much more strength right now in the in the Dow and the Russell from a technical perspective, which we've come to see that. I think there's still a lot of questions about tech valuations and things like that. So we will see. Of course, the big one next week with NVIDIA earnings. Make sure you tune in to Topstep TV next week. We're going to have some interesting stuff to say about those NVIDIA earnings and maybe an NVIDIA watch party next week. All right, let's move on to the metals
One other
here.
thing.
Yeah, go ahead, Coach.
One other thing. over the long weekend, I saw something on LinkedIn
Okay.
about Citadel
Interesting.
having to borrow money to pay their partners, which is to me a huge red flag. And they were, by the way, they borrowed that with triple B credit, so they paid up. That is not you would if I said Citadel borrowing money, would think it was because they're going to build something or buy something.
Yeah.
No, so that came from a pretty good source.
Interesting.
Um, not a, it was a link. It was on LinkedIn, and I was like, that's that's not healthy. A
Yeah.
hedge fund shouldn't be borrowing money to pay their partners.
Right.
So we'll see if anything else comes to that.
Okay.
Um, I just found that an interesting article. I was shocked. I'm like, I thought they were swimming in money,
Right.
so
They got to borrow. Uh, let's
maybe
take
they
a
were
look.
short gold.
Maybe so. Let's take a look at gold. We got gold here on the daily. We'll take a look at that range again. That 50% level, 50% of the sell off, 50-25 evens in gold. High of the session today, 50-21-40, holding that 20-day moving average at 50-25-50, which is right at that 50%. That is, man, where was I when gold was trading up here? That is a nice short up there. What are you seeing here on the daily, Coach Paul? It's balanced, man.
It's balanced. Um, like I said, we measured this out. This could go on for another couple months.
Yeah,
Um, look at the size. That I mean, the size of that selling and the follow through. It's just going to be a while. But we're not recovering this 20-day moving average. What I want to see is if it turns negative. I mean, in other words, if it tops out and it starts ticking down, I think this they're going to get more liquidation from funds. Um, and look where we stalled at the 50%. We're losing volume, losing momentum.
yep.
You said balance, but long-term gold buyers start getting nervous if we break out of this downside to the downside in this range.
Oh, that's where. What was I doing last night at 6 p.m. Eastern time? Not selling gold, I'll tell you that much. We got an urgency trade last night. Really got to think. What the hell? Oh, uh, but we got an urgency trade last night. We have the first 30-minute of the Globex session open. Volume left that range fairly urgently, right? In relatively early. These are 30-minute candles, so it took about an hour. But after that first hour, we were already leaving that range to the downside. Here is the Shanghai session open. Uh, but
They
at
didn't
that
even
point,
wait.
no, they didn't wait at all.
New Year's parties were going on.
Yeah, I was gonna say, are we gonna see much of the volume that we're accustomed to seeing on that Shanghai Open if there is the holiday? But really nice selling right off the open in gold and just kind of sustain the rest of the day. There were a couple bounces in this market, uh, but
We
really this was just a
did have
nice
a we did have a J trade on the lows of the day with a nice
uh,
bounce.
right here. Nice
The
trade
one
there.
before that, yeah, uh,
Oh, you mean in the overnight session?
yeah.
Okay, yeah, there you go.
Now,
Right.
but still, you know what? And then when we talk about liquidity, that's why I'm saying a gold is not. This is a classic example selling exhaustion. It wasn't. it's changed its character as we watched the last 18 months.
Yeah.
It was the rip to the upside and get exhausted buying.
Yep.
So that's a sign or a DNA of liquidation. Um, but we had what, three of them, and still we finished towards the low of the day. So you know what? It also moved Sunday night and yesterday about the same way. Lost your sound, coach.
Yeah, you should be able to hear me now. I haven't traded gold much in the past couple of days, but what I'm looking at in this chart is it looks like random spouts of volatility, uh, which you know it's could be difficult to trade until like you could see that volatility stepping in and then maybe taking an opportunity from there. But yeah, interesting market here in gold. Two cats in a man suit says, "Why do we keep seeing New Year's parties?" We were just talking about that. It is the Lunar New Year. Shout out to all of our friends in China. Also, what the heck is a J trade? Well, you might be a new viewer, so why don't we go ahead and explain that for you, Coach Paul? Let's explain a J trade. Let's go with this one.
Let's go with that one. Things went with the J trade that I I gave tag that because Coach J brought
That's
this
me. I'm Jay.
to he's Coach J, and he brought this up when we first started almost was it almost 3 years ago?
3 years ago now.
Wow. Um, so you make a new low on the day or new high. In this case, it's the new low on a heavy volume. In other words, that's the highest volume of the day so far. All right. And then
Go
you
to your
hold
first one.
that.
Go ahead. Keep going.
Uh, so you hold that and you close above it. So that candle makes the low, new high on very large volume, highest of the night. That's defined as exhaustive buying. Buy against that. We get 1 to 1. I aim for 2 to 1.
Didn't really get it, but that would be the trade, right? It's a reversal trade. Could be a
Reverse.
3 bar reversal. In this case, it was took a little more than 3 bars, right, on that 3 minute candle, but it is a reversal trade.
Is that red line? That's session VWAP.
That's full session VWAP. That's correct.
Very interesting. So we rally back above the session VWAP and we close under it. All right. When it comes back into the range after not getting that, I could take that trade and take a small loss. I'm 2 to 1. Um, you get new information. So as we go through, this is very interesting. We were really close to volume. So the idea is exhausted selling. We
Yep.
close above that bar and we start to rally. But what changed it?
Full session
Session VWAP,
VWAP.
we spent some time right back up. I would now I have new information. I can roll that stop up. Maybe I take it a little higher or go just get out.
You know what I can see it here. Uh, Volume never left these ranges to the upside. It took a while, right? One of the things we've talked about with this trade, Coach Paul, and again, know your trade system, whatever system you trade, know it well enough to know what it looks like when it doesn't work. And in this case, I could almost see it now. Volume never left that range to the upside. Yeah, look how long it
Okay,
took
there.
from the time that we have a VWAP attached to that high volume. It took almost 2 hours, probably even longer than that. Yeah, it took 4 hours for that VWAP to even attempt the upper extreme of that range. There was no urgency in this, right? It actually took a half an hour before we even got a candle close above. when these trades work out really well, that reversal happens pretty quickly. Right? Even this case,
Yes.
we had that high volume. It took an hour to trade above that high. That almost invalidates the trade.
You know what's interesting is we get these big selling, they
Yeah,
saturated. So the selling stops. Where do we rally to?
right back to where the other selling came in.
Yep. And VWAP is flat.
Yeah,
So let's look at it, the light volume, it's not changing
yeah.
the structure of VWAP. I That's very interesting because we do this, and when we every time we get to VWAP, we get what? New selling at bigger volume.
Almost like there's like an algo configured to to sell every time we get up there.
Yeah, it truly is.
Yeah, none of those really held.
Yeah.
None of those held at all. But there you go. That is the J trade. I'll do you one. I'll do you one better here. Two cats in a man suit. Only if you promise to hit thumbs up button. Uh, there you go. You take a screenshot of that, share it to your friends. That is the a breakdown of that trade right there. All right.
Boy, that was over a year ago.
What's that?
That J trade that we had up
Oh yeah, yeah.
one twenty nine 25. Where does the time go?
I had AI pull
Previous.
some data from some previous videos, and apparently January 29th, 2025, we must have had a hell of a J trade, a Hall of Fame J trade, as Coach Paul put it, uh, in the Nasdaq. So there you have that. I don't even know that I really want to even look at silver. We'll do a
Yeah,
quick overview.
I, that,
Literally, no
that
one's trading
looks.
this market.
No one could afford to.
Look at the
Wouldn't
volume.
blow it. I'll tell you what. I just that doesn't that looks unhealthy to me. This is the
Yeah,
story of commodities. Um, oh, wow, we're getting back to the lowest. What was the lowest settlement? Did we are we on the lowest settlement
lowest settlement from
from that big break?
not yet, not yet. We had one
All
lower,
right.
February 5th.
What was that close?
That was 70.35, and today's close
73.
73.51.
All right. That's gonna be an important number. Yeah, let's
Yeah,
put, you know what, interesting, put a line chart. That to me is the epitome of a dead cat bounce.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't the shock, the flop. If I see someone dribbling like that, we're gonna dump, we're just gonna take it
Oh
away
yeah,
from them.
trap him in the corner.
Trap them in the corner.
Yep.
That is not a healthy bounce. And light, and look at the volume.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Like you
decreasing
just
every
said,
day.
it's so. hmm,
Silver
We'll
the
see.
best, says Swilek. So one of the things, and we saw the crazy volatility. We saw, prop firms, Topstep being the leader, adjust to the market volatility. One of the things we say here all the time, and this is part of the reason why I'm saying, you know what, I don't mind skipping silver. We say it every time we start the show. Our goal is to identify opportunity and see how we can take advantage of those opportunities. One of the things I'm aware of, Coach Paul, when I'm trading any market is what type of volume it trades on a day-to-day basis. With is silver still moving? Technically. But with the lack of liquidity in that market, to me, it feels like an opportunity for randomness. And we already deal with randomness, right? Our job is to manage uncertainty. But when I see that there's no one else on the order book, I don't want to be there either. Right? That's kind of like it's like the lamest party in the world. Uh,
Yeah, it's when your stops get filled 10, 10 handles away.
right.
Um, so a good point.
It'll still move, but that it's something you have to take into consideration, especially if you are trading live markets. Coach, who saying it's a BYOB party. Bring your own liquidity party into silver if you want to trade it. All right, but let's take a look at crude oil. Crude oil finishing up its rollover. I believe we should be rolling over to next contract tomorrow. So just keep that in mind if you are trading crude. But you up from the low of the year. Go ahead, Coach Paul. What are you saying here?
Well, I don't argue with that VWAP.
Yeah,
Wow. Let's got what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
too
6
many
or
to count.
7
Yeah.
times. Um, Now with that, let's put the 200 moving average
On the daily or 30?
on the daily.
Here it is, 6108.
So we're balancing, we're rotating off that high. This is a news-led market right now.
For sure.
Um, that VWAP still holding from that was wow.
Oh,
So mark it on your calendars, folks, or mark it on your book that VWAP from beginning of the year.
who was our friend?
Um,
Cat suit man. Man in a cat suit. Cats in a man suit. Was asking
them
was
too.
asking
Three cats in a man
right.
suit.
Was asking about a J trade. Here's a J trade on a daily. This is if we look at the year in crude oil, that was the at that time was the highest volume daily candle at the low of the year in crude oil. We attach a VWAP to it. If you got long, here's a perfect example of that trade, right? If you get long on that candle close, risk goes here, you got your 2 to 1, right? So it markets are fractal, right? These patterns can show up on any time frame. There you have it on a daily. That's a really strong one. Um,
Especially the size of that candle off that volume at that time.
yeah, yeah, tiny range, big volume, tiny range. That it's not going to hold for a very long time.
So there was some there was some whipsaw in the crude also. So let's get to the half hour.
Here is the half
Yesterday,
hour
yeah.
crude, the open.
No, it wicks you out. It was a nice move. You got a 2 to 1. We didn't leave that VWAP didn't leave for like a while. So, but once again, news driven. What happened in London came in with buyers blazing.
Yeah,
Um, and that looked really good at that point. We're above the 200. It was a nice break that got bought up in London. And one thing, VWAP, session VWAP never went above the 200.
that is a sign if I've ever seen one.
And what kind of is that's not a hammer candle. What is it? A doji?
Up here, yeah, that's a doji.
Yeah, a doji that failed. All right. So what I look at yesterday, or last we rallied to the 200. Look at that.
Yep.
And then we slowed down, and VWAP never left. We came back and wicked, but VWAP, session VWAP, doesn't follow through. And
Yeah.
when we get under VWAP this morning, there was there was no buyers.
No.
So that's kind of a bearish sign overall.
Yeah.
Um, we've never recovered from that. We finished towards the lows of the day. Underneath the 200, we're not getting VWAP above that. But that can once again, a headline or a tweet can change that a
Yeah,
moment's notice.
and that's exactly what happened, right? The Iran news comes out. Maybe we're getting closer to peace. Uh, and the funny thing is, we don't get to choose when those headlines come out, Coach Paul. Right? We just. But the more you do this, the more it seems like whoever's releasing headlines is looking at a technical chart right before they do it. Uh, Maybe that's just my opinion. Maybe that's just coincidence. But it's interesting how that works. But again, I think from a technical perspective, which we have to trade as retail traders, as day traders, from a technical perspective, exactly what you were just talking about is really interesting for a short here before that news even comes out. Now the question is, where do you take the trade? There is a potential J trade on a 30-minute here, where at one point this candle that tested the 200 moving average on the 30 was the highest volume of the day. Like you said, we had price trading above. Honestly, this is one of my favorite trade setups. You have price trading above a level and volumes not. Just like, man,
Where does it fail?
yep. As soon as we get back below it, and we close pretty much right at the low of that candle, but right
With a
back at,
doji at the high.
oh, yeah, that's art right there. Uh, that is art because and again we're doing this in hindsight, but when you recognize these things in real time, what was the puzzle up here? We have the 200 moving average, which was a resistance a couple of days ago. We have price trading above it, no volume trading above it, so it's going to need some sustained buying above here. $64, which is a big fat round number level, right at these highs. Whole number level, $64. Volumes almost 50 cents below it. That's a beautiful trade. Now, I'm not saying that I would have gotten short up here. I think a lot of times traders are trying to figure out how, we say this all the time, how to sell this high tick of the market. I don't know a way that you can do that. Um, if I could find a way, I'm not even sure that I would tell you guys. I'd probably just do it. But what I can
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
well, I've been. How many times have you sold the high of the day?
I could count it on two
One
hands.
hand.
One hand,
Yeah.
maybe one hand. Yeah,
By the way, well, you, if you if you have an order that's at the exact height of the day, you're probably not getting filled.
right.
So continue because I'll show you where I look. At this point, I want to see where the buying fails.
Yeah, yep,
And
right under that view up. And I think that's where you have to short it, Coach Paul. So for me personally, I would be looking to sell a failure at $64, right? Just because it's a whole number
yeah,
level. Every time I see a whole number level, it just kind of sticks out to me in my head. Especially seeing no volume above it. But I probably wouldn't be selling until the way back down, until we're on the way down. So I don't know that I would get short before 63.80s, to be honest.
all right. So what would you if you do sell it? You have to define the risk. To me, you got to take
New highs,
new highs.
new highs plus, new highs plus a little bit, which is not a ton of risk. And I think that's the great thing about trading crude oil right now. This is, we're talking about 30 ticks of risk here with a one lot mini that's $300, $350. Micros, you can, divide that by 10. Uh, there is, if you wait for opportunities in crude oil, there are some really nice trade opportunities. We're talking about, potential anywhere from 2-to-1 to 4-to-1 trades here.
Yeah. So once again, going through that, it's and we talked about just because it touches the 200. We did that yesterday during of the abbreviated session.
Yeah.
But look, once again, it didn't close above it. You could attach a VWAP, anchor a VWAP to the first candle that touches it. See if it closes over.
It's right here.
All right.
Yeah.
So we still had buying. We VWAP doesn't leave that. But what happens in the short term on the 3 minute? VWAP goes flat. And then we go, that's where actually, that's where the failing came. When we broke out of that range, we closed under the session VWAP. and then never recovered. Mm-mm.
Oh, yeah. What did I say? 63.80 is where I would get short. Pretty Lily says in the chat, we always say that you might have to sacrifice trade location, and I think it's for that reason, right? If you were looking to sell crude oil, you were fighting a trend, and again, I don't know how to call this high of the day, so who's to say it was going to stop there? But when volume comes in and says it's going to stop, then awesome. You guys, somebody showed me that there's potential for this to turn around up here. Now my job is to allow them to do their job, right? If a seller is going to come in there and sell us off, I could hope and wish that crude oil goes to zero on a day like today. But if somebody's not selling it to go to zero, then it's not going to go where I want it to. So waiting for them to say it first and then getting it after, right? Uh, until you're the big dog at the table, you got to let the big dog eat first, Coach Paul.
Um, but it's the rule. It's the law of the jungle, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it's just the way it is. By the way, also, that's the shark. Let the shark, don't swim in front of the shark. But to me, right at that, when it gets under the 200, under and under session VWAP, I would term that all the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't push it higher. So that really is the failure.
yeah,
Um, well, wouldn't expect. Now, one other thing, I don't know if that's going to happen,
no one does.
but it happened.
Someone does.
That was the headline.
Yep. Yeah, this is the headline right here. Which again, so one of the things I want to caution everybody, we just talked about J trade examples, right? See it a lot of time where, okay, this was now the highest volume candle, low of the day. Sometimes high volume means continuation, right? So one of the ways that I've been trading crude oil is when you see this spike, right? We get a spike of volume here, frame out that range, see how it kind of holds 50%. Risk goes on the other side, and sometimes high volume means continuation. So if we don't get a candle close above, there could be an opportunity to continue to sell this, right? In this case, VWAP attached to that high volume went pretty flat, but I want to do this. We do it a couple times, right? Here's another one. This wasn't the low of the day, but another high volume spike, right? I don't want anyone to immediately think reversal every time you see high volume because sometimes high volume could mean continuation. Right. And another one where we didn't get a candle close above, we didn't even test the high, volume stayed flat. Now it's this one. I see it in the chat all the time. Oh, potential J trade. Sometimes high volume means continuation. And in this case, if you attach a VWAP to there, that's the highest volume of the day at the low. Right now, this is where you if the flow is going to be to the downside, if they're going to sell it, your job at this point is to get in the flow of the market. Right, find a place to, and you could sell it against this VWAP again. I don't get to choose this. I didn't sell 5,000 contracts in crude oil in 3 minutes. Somebody else did, and they're selling it for a reason, maybe because that headline came out. But now, can I sell against the VWAP attached to this high volume to see whether or not we'll get continuation? Define where your risk goes. It can go above 50%. It can go above the high of the candle. But
It never closed
it
above that.
no, it never even tested the 50%. So sometimes when you see that high volume, or you get a headline and you see it move the markets, and you try to, I'll tell you guys, that's how I trade most of the time. I'm waiting for a high volume spike to happen and then seeing if there's a wave that I can ride. Right? Otherwise, I feel like I'm kind of guessing where the market is going to go. But once volume starts to move, that's why I did well trading the metals last month. Volume started moving and it didn't stop moving until it stopped, right? But in that movement, there was enough opportunity to take advantage of. And that's the way I want to trade, right? Coach Paul, we talked about this when you were on the floor, right? When
Not-
things were quiet, no one was making, weren't a lot of people making decisions until things started moving. And then that's when you start to make decisions. So that's probably the way I would trade crude oil for the most part. But some really, really nice trading going on here.
Yeah, good risk. It's not intolerable risk.
Right.
It's good risk.
Yeah. Let's see here. Jacob was asking, how long did it take to become profitable? I had answered that question for you, Jacob. My first 2 years, I made some really good money, kind of getting lucky, and didn't really understand what was going on. I think it was the market state. I thought I was better than the market. So my first 2 years, I was making good money, and then the next 4 years after that was spent losing that money. But profitability, and you asked, what made you keep going? What makes me keep going every day is the opportunity that the market's present, right? But profitability, we've been saying this a lot, is an action. It's not a destination. If you get profitable, right, and you have a good year, you have a good couple of months, and then you start to uh, throw your risk tolerance, your risk tolerance increases faster than your account increases. You start to neglect the rules that got you to the point that you got. You could go from profitable to unprofitable very quickly. And I've had years. Last year was a losing year for me. So it's an action, and it's your decisions, especially if you're going to day trade. It's the actions that you take every single day. Um, so what makes me keep going is the opportunity that the market presents, but also the growth that I've had as a trader keeps me going as well, right? Where I understand the risk, I understand and respect the risk of the markets now. Um, so it makes it easier to keep going. I think there were definitely points where I was just like, oh shit, I can't do this anymore. But it was nothing to do with the charts. It was all to do with me. Um, yeah, good question. Good question.
Good question.
Uh, any other markets, Coach Paul, you want to talk about?
Well, let's look at Bitcoin.
On a daily. Start with the daily. What are we seeing here, Coach Paul?
We're finding balance on light volume. Yesterday doesn't really, it tell you how it's become, I've said it, become like a stock. Bitcoin's volume yesterday was tiny because of the
Yeah, it was.
US holiday. That wasn't necessarily the case 4 or 5 years ago. Um, One thing the Merc offers, leverage. This, this contract trades.
Yeah.
What was it? On that break, that we had 200, almost 300,000 contracts.
Yep.
It's liquid. But what I want to find out, what I really want to bring up is that it's a good place to trade. I don't,
It is.
um, but with that, at the current state, we might have a J trade, but it's what is it doing? It's going sideways. We're underneath the 20, the 50, and the 200. Um, it's correcting, so it's finding balance, but the longer it stays inside this range, the worse it is for the bulls.
Yeah. Agreed.
'Cause you really need some heavy buying. What brought it down there is heavy selling, almost liquidation. And the reaction to that has just been what? It almost looks like the volume almost looks like what silver's doing. It's disappearing.
Yeah.
Uh, Is that better? There we go. So I'm watching that. That is another term for that is coiling.
You know what?
Coil
Jack said
compressing.
something. Jack said something interesting on on fast markets today. I guess last week, Michael Saylor said MicroStrategy can a Bitcoin price drop to 8,000.
Only he knows for sure. I don't. I don't
I,
know.
I and when Jack said it, he said that's not a price that anybody else was talking about. So Bitcoin drops to 8,000, I'll be a buyer. I already bought some, but
We should be buying more.
I'll be buying more. If it drops to
There
8,000, I'm
you
buying
go.
more. I'm taking the risk. That is not financial advice. That is just Jay's opinion. If it drops to 8,000, I will be a buyer for sure. Um,
Well, not even say. Let's look at a weekly or a monthly Bitcoin. I wish we had the cash, but it's the history of Bitcoin. Like I said,
Mm.
it's got to get to a point where people say, "I'll never touch that crap again. It's all a scam."
Yeah.
You'll be at a family barbecue,
Remember Bitcoin?
remember Bitcoin, and then that's when it has this history. When I
Yeah.
watched it from day one, I'm not kidding you, and I remember it got to 100, and people were just like, "This is a scam," and then it broke to 50. But
Yeah.
is this
Here's
cash?
the cash. Yeah, here's the cash.
Yeah,
Uh 8,000s.
yeah. So with that, this is the history of Bitcoin. So what? Oh,
The weekly 200 moving average.
mm, keep an eye on that one. That one works. And we have that J trade on the weekly, possible. So I don't know, but that is a nice catch there.
Yeah.
But like I said, this is the history of Bitcoin. Violent downside. No one wants to own it, and then it takes off. And so
Interesting stuff here. Again, if we trade down to 8,000s, I'm taking the risk. I'm taking the risk. All right. Any other markets, Coach Paul, you want to talk about? We did get a question from John Q in the chat here. Well, I guess it wasn't a question, just comment. Hey, coaches, I'm back in my XFAs. I hate how personal issues affect my trading. I need to get better to stop trading since I can't overcome the issues in trading. It's a real thing, John. I've shared with my VIP team last season that we had. Sometimes when you have some life stuff come up, it can affect your trading. And the one thing I know is that the markets are always going to be here. Right? If the markets are not here, we got bigger issues to worry about. But if life things come up, which they're going to do, uh, it's okay to step away from the markets. Because what I've seen is the alternative of trying to my neighbor's dog's going crazy. Trying to fight against it, and that hasn't worked in my experience. You know, so shout out to you for getting back into your XFAs. But if you don't think that you're in a place to execute cleanly or clearly, it's okay to step away. Right. The one thing with the XFA, you need to place at least one trade every 30 days to keep it open. But don't put on unnecessary risk in an environment that maybe you need to adjust to. Anything you would say to that, Coach Paul?
size down. Go down to your lowest, down a micro. Keep
Yeah.
your skill, but you're maturing as a trader because you're recognizing that.
Hmm.
Um, one way to do is just size down,
Yeah.
because just like an athlete or your your mental state and your emotional state are at least 50% of trading.
Yeah. At least.
Sometimes you can't. There's certain things you can't change in your personal life, like so. That's a big. That's a really good that you identify that to me. My advice, what that helped me in that is to size down.
Yeah. For sure. For sure. Edison has a question here. If emotions are a trader's biggest problem, is automation the solution? What part of your strategy do you think is the factor that makes it difficult to automate, if any? For me, I would say the most difficult part to automate, and I wouldn't say it's extremely difficult, right? Because you set parameters and say, okay, do if this, then that. Um, the most, I think, the most difficult part to automate in my strategy is, uh, you know, you are susceptible to whenever volume wants to trade in the market. Um, right? If my best trades are when flow comes into the market and I'm following that flow, and sometimes that's discretionary. right? So it's not always the same exact trade just because there's volume coming in. So I think that what makes it not impossible to automate, but more difficult. Is automation the solution? I think risk management is the solution. You could automate trades, and I've tried this, right? Shout out to Coach Robert, who he actually says that all the time. His biggest issue with trading is the emotion part of it. So how do you remove yourself from that? Automate it. If you're an emotional person, you're gonna watch the automation do something that you don't like, and then you're gonna be like, excuse my language, but fuck this bot. I'm gonna turn it off and do what I want to do. Right? How do I know that? Hi, I'm Jay. I've done that. So if you don't understand how to manage your risk, and automation is not going to fix it. You don't understand how to manage your emotions and your risk, and automation is not going to fix that. It's probably just going to throw, more emotion into it. So, uh, and we get one of those sessions, so that'll be the last time. But but yeah, I think understanding risk management, regardless of how you trade, is most important. Can automation help? 100%, 100%, because it's helping with the trade entry. But if your automation loses a trade, we're all susceptible to this. Oh, I need to change the strategy. The strategy doesn't work. I'm going to leave the automation on. The one thing I had to learn with trading some of Coach Robert's stuff, which was really good, by the way. When do I turn it on? When do I turn it off? Do I feel the emotions of wanting to turn it off after a losing trade and say I could just do this better myself? So could automation help? It could. Is it the answer? I don't think so, personally. What would you say to that, Coach Paul?
I have automated stuff
Yeah.
before. The biggest thing before you automate it, you have to back test or trade it
Yep.
consistently. Not, well, I don't want to do it this time because I just had 3 losers. So
Yeah.
you really have to back test it, and why I say that, understand it and trust it. Because if you don't trust it, what's going to happen? Coach just said it. Just sold it for you. I don't like that sell. Then you
Right.
get out of it. You could just get out of it. There's
Yep.
nothing to stop you. So if you're not confident in that trade and or that uh, plan, and because you know what's going to automate it to? 4 or 5 losers in a row. It's going to happen.
Yep.
And actually, that's actually good. You should do that on a practice account first and compare the results to your decision making. And you're going to get some very valuable feedback
For sure.
because I don't care who you are or what you do, you're going to get a series of losses. It's going to happen. And with automated trading, it's going to take that. And it's probably over time going to do better than
Yeah.
you.
Yep.
But well, my thing is you better trust it
Agreed.
because that same anxiety is going to be there whether it was executed automatically or not. It's a great question.
Really good question. Really good question. One more comment here from Moto in the chat says, "Looking forward to next next VIP season. Need help with the emotions. Have the trading down." Um, that's an interesting spot to be in as well as a trader. Where you know exactly what you're looking for, but managing the emotions. From my experience, I think what helps is truly trading with an amount that you are 100% comfortable risking. And when I say 100%, that value or that dollar amount is specific to you. Coach Paul gives a suggestion all the time: not losing more than 12% of your drawdown any given day. Um, for some people, it should be even less than that, right? Because at what level, at what dollar amount does it start to trigger your emotions? There's a whole conversation we could have on that. Just the what what triggers emotions in trading. There could be a million things. Um, but knowing how to navigate the markets when your emotions are triggered, whatever they could be. You know what used to trigger me all the time when I was where I saw a really good trade setup coming up, and then I was working a 9 to 5 at the time, and I would be trading and working at the same time, and then I would get pulled into a meeting, and then I missed the really good trade setup. Right, that's an emotional thing that I had to at some point figure out how to navigate. Right, that's not going to be everybody's situation, but if it is, I'll tell you what, every time I traded and I'm just like, damn it, they pulled me into this meeting. I could just make more money in the markets. I would not listen to what was going on in the meeting and then lose money as well. So then it was just a double whammy. You're just adding bad emotions on top of others. So, figure out exactly what it is that's causing you emotions in the market, and then assess how you can, alleviate that being a catalyst in your trading. Right. For me, it was okay. I can't even have the charts up next to me if I have, a work meeting, because I'm not going to pay attention to either. And then I would just be upset at someone else that has no idea what I'm trying to do here. So address whatever that is for all of you, for everybody as a trader, right? And then make some changes from there. And you got to use the bathroom. All right, got to. What's like? Why is police in the restroom? What is going on with Jay? Coach Paul, anything else you want to say before we head out of here?
Great conversation to our audience. Thanks for the questions. And remember, plan your trade, trade your plan. Whether it's automated or not, you have to stick to the script.
Yeah, absolutely. This meeting could have. Yeah, man. Some of those have cost me a lot of money. Uh, cost me a lot of. Do you have any updates on the project? No, same as last week. All right, having flashbacks now, so we'll go ahead and end this show there. We got
You've been triggered.
we got coach. You see what I mean? Imagine trading with those emotions, right? We got Coach Hoop doing a class in Discord after this 6 p.m. Eastern time. Then we got Coach Ray and Coach Vince 7 p.m. and 8 p.m. Eastern. Coach Dakota with slow markets tonight at 8:30. Aaron with the London Open 2:30 Eastern time, and then D with the metal markets. D's session is now changing to only trading metals, copper, platinum, silver, gold. Pushing it back an hour, so 5:30 Eastern time, closer to the New York session open. Make sure you join D for metal markets tomorrow. Trade well, everybody. Like Coach Paul says, trade your plan, plan your trade, trade your plan. Make sure you understand risk most importantly, and we will see you all tomorrow.
Good night.
Bye.